Your psychological performance in a trade is inversely proportional to your trade allocation. What I'm saying is the bigger your trade allocation is, the worse your performance is going to be. Let me explain why. Your brain loves to see things in a certain manner. It wants to predict everything because it doesn't want danger and interprets every trade as risk simply because we don't really know how it will go. Risk equals danger. So the bigger your trade size is, the bigger risk it looks like to your brain, the bigger the danger it interprets. And then comes irrationality. Have you ever thought about the times you were so fearful you don't even know what you just did at that moment? You just become extremely extremely irrational at that moment. It's during those crises, like for example in the Philippines there's been a recent typhoon, and we've been getting stories of how people acted out in a way they never thought they could. And that's because your brain had seen the danger, and now it's making you act out in ways you never thought you could. But we get used to crisis over time, so don't ever feel like, well, if this amount of allocation gets me emotional, am I forever cursed to get emotional whenever I scale up my portfolio? No, no, don't worry about that. Think about the pandemic, think about COVID. In the beginning, everyone was so fearful about it. They wouldn't even leave their house. They're spraying alcohol everywhere. People won't even talk to each other eye to eye, even if they're socially distancing. But now we're getting used to the crisis. We're adjusting to the fear. And it's the same with your trading. In the beginning, it might feel like it can't, but as you go on with it, as you keep practicing, you will eventually get there. But the most important part of this is to never traumatize your learning. Um, hmm, I've seen a lot of traders who want to get in the market to make an easy buck. And I think every one of us went into that stage, right? And now you realize that, oh, the amount of money you make is according to how much money you have. Let me put a lot of money in there because if I make 5% with a bigger portfolio, that means a lot of money. But in the beginning, you're still learning. And if you put a lot of money in there, and instead of making 5%, you might be losing 5% or losing 10% at the worst. And now you're just traumatized. I just lost so much money. How can I ever trust myself in this craft? In the beginning, you have to make sure you only have a small amount of money. Because if you lose a lot, you might be traumatizing the learning process. And instead of you learning in a safe way, you might you might impair your learning. Ever thought of a time where you were in class? Maybe it's you or maybe it's a classmate, and the person or you have a question and you wanted to ask the teacher, like, teacher, what does it mean when you said something? And the teacher, instead of teaching you what it means, shouted at the student or shouted at you, and eventually that child feels traumatized. They will never ask a question again. It impairs their learning. The same way, trading is the same. In the beginning, you're exploring things, and now that you have way too much money on the line and you lost it, you'd feel terrible and you'd start doubting what you just did and you just impaired your progress.